Hello everyone, and welcome back to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about the Working While Disabled program if you're receiving Social Security disability. This is something that I frequently got asked while working for the administration is, simply put, if I'm receiving disability, can I work? The simple answer to that question is yes. So we'll be talking about that in today's video. In semi-detail. Before we get into it, please make sure to like, comment, or subscribe to the channel and turn on your bell notifications so you'll always be notified whenever I'm posting new content. This is probably going to be one of the most valuable videos that I'm going to make. And as you'll see here in a minute, to how many people this video can apply to is pretty tremendous. All right. So after a simple Google search of all I did was type how many people are on Social Security disability. The first link here is SSA.gov, so I'm going to switch to this. And basically, this is what Social Security posts on a quarterly and a monthly basis. The Social Security disability program is determined by a congressional budget. There is a trust fund for it, but as far as kind of how much money the agency is able to utilize from year to year is driven by budget. So kind of what I'm looking at on this chart, there's obviously a lot of information here, but this is primarily what I'm looking at right now. In current payment status. So we want to know how many people are currently on Social Security disability, which is different from SSI, okay? So the SSI program is a whole different tax program, and Social Security disability has the, SSDI taxes coming out of it. So you can see by calendar year, by quarter, but we're going to come down by month. So the last full month, we're currently on November 28th, 2022. Okay, so at the end of October of 2022, there were 7,673,428 people on Social Security disability. Each one of those people could benefit from this video. So if you know somebody that's on disability or maybe gearing up to get on disability and they're waiting for a decision, or maybe is thinking about applying for disability, this video can help them. Specifically, again, the Working While Disabled program. So when Social Security's definition of disability is a condition that's preventing you from working substantially for 12 months or longer, or that can result with the person passing away. It's like a terminal illness or something like that. Okay, so if you're somebody who, let's say you are a construction worker and you broke your back, or you're an Uber driver and maybe you got in a bad car accident and you broke your driving foot, or something like that. You're a surgeon and now your hands are broken. Something like that, which does happen. So once you get approved for disability benefits and you're on them, depending on when you're found to be disabled, you can't work over a certain dollar amount within the first 12 months because Social Security disability is essentially a long-term disability program. Short-term disability, to my knowledge, it's typically if you have a condition, let's say you broke your arm, and your recovery time is less than 6 months. That would be, maybe you need a couple weeks off of work because you're waiting for the surgery, you're waiting for the cast, all that good stuff. And then you might have 6 to 8 weeks before the cast comes off. That would be like a short-term disability. A long-term disability is a much more severe injury that, again, is greater than 12 months. Maybe, your recovery time, especially if it's something like your back or your neck, could be a few years. And obviously the severity of your conditions and things like that. Okay? So once somebody is on disability, one of the first or most frequent questions, I should say, is can I work while I'm on Social Security disability? Again, the simple answer to that is yes. And then this is also how you get off of disability properly. Sometimes people will want to call the office and they'll say, okay, I'm going back to work now, just cut my check. That is not a good idea, because that process, if you wanted to, let's say that you were that person and you're a month into working and you're like, okay, I'm good to go. I need to just stop everything. You can't really do that with disability. You can, but it would be very bad for you. So really the only way to stop it instantly without even considering the working program, if you did do that, you would actually have to file a withdrawal if you were within the first 12 months of your application filing. And then you would have anything that they paid you, you'd have to pay back, and then it will also terminate your Medicare. And it's just this whole big mess. So I would recommend against that. Some people are we'll say stern, and they really don't like being on disability. They enjoy, or they're passionate about working or providing for themselves, and they just don't like the idea of being on disability, and they want to get off of it as soon as possible. I've met a number of people like that, and you can hear the frustration in their voice where they don't want any part of Social Security, but unfortunately, maybe they'll lose their house or go to bed hungry or something if they don't have this. Essentially, it's a supplement while they're healing. All right. So now we go over to Social Security's website, which is just ssa.gov. Scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll see publications. All right. And we're going to come here. We're going to go into the navigation search, working while disabled. Now you'll see that there are two different publications. The first one, this is about SSI. I'm not really going to dive into this. My area of expertise is Social Security disability, and that would be this one, working while disabled, how we can help. The difference in these two, more than likely, is because SSI is a month-to-month benefit, and it's based off your income and your resources. So realistically, the more you earn from your work, the lower your check is going to be. And then once you earn a certain amount of money, your check is going to be reduced to zero. You'll be in a suspended status, essentially. And then if you maintain that suspended status, I believe, for 12 months, then you go to a terminated status. And then if let's say something happened with your job, you would essentially have to reapply for SSI. All right. In a nutshell, that's basically it. For Social Security disability, though, there's a bit more involved into it, and we're about to hop into it now. All right. So let me see if I can. I'm going to try and increase this. There we go. All right. Working while disabled. That's a bit much. Okay. So here's the index. In this video, I could make this probably an hour long, but I'm going to try and consolidate it as much as possible and keep it in general terms as to not to confuse you. If you have any questions or this is something you're interested in knowing more about, I do help. One of the services that Social Benefit Advisors provides is work reviews. So if you are on disability and you're thinking about going back to work, or maybe you already have gone back to work and you need help with articulating all that to SSA and putting it, on in writing and providing it to them, so that not only is your work being documented properly, but when the time comes and you get further into the program where your check might be suspended, it's suspended timely, or you know what to expect when it does get suspended and what you'll have to do, and so on and so forth. So this booklet and this video is going to be a real good way to basically keep you from being overpaid. That means that your work is basically over the limit or over the restriction for Social Security purposes, and you weren't due that payment, and now you have to give that money back to Social Security. All right, so what we want to do is we want to minimize, realistically, Social Security is always going to be a month behind, and that's because you have to work the entire month before you know what your gross is, or if you're self-employed, your net, at the end of every month, and then you report that to Social Security. If you were paid, realistically, Social Security pays a month behind. So let's say you get paid in February for January, and let's say you get paid at the beginning of the month, somewhere on the 3rd, but maybe all of January you worked, you give that information to Social Security. It has to, all the paperwork you give them has to get routed to somebody. That's probably going to take a week or two, and then by the time they process the decision, and you get your notice, more than likely you have already been paid and you'll owe that one check back. So that's why I said at a minimum, they're going to be at least 1 month behind. So it's important to know, what check you need to hang on to because you're going to owe it back. All right. So right off the rip, there are two parts to the Working While Disabled program. The first part is called the trial work period, and I'm just going to Control F this real quick. Trial work period. All right. So there it is. Page, I just need to go down a little more. All right. So the trial work program. So essentially what this is, here's actually the two. The trial work program, and then the second part is the extended period of eligibility. The trial work program is a 9-month non-consecutive period, meaning it does not have to be 1 month after the other. And that total period of time looks like is 60 months. All right. So you have 60 months to utilize these 9 months that you get in the trial work period. If you're on Social Security disability and you go back to work, basically what these 9 months are it's a period of time where you can test your ability to work. Basically, make sure your body's functioning, or your mind, if you have some sort of mental health condition. So it allows you to basically go to work and you can earn as much money as you want. So if you're, let's say, maybe a real estate agent and you know that you can earn $150,000, $200,000 a year, have at it. So you have 9 months where you can earn as much money as you can, and it will not negatively impact your benefits in any way. You will still continue to get paid. If you have family members that are receiving benefits because of your disability, they will still continue to get paid. Your Medicare will still be active and current, and all that will be fine. Okay? Now, when they start counting these months, okay, so you have to hit a certain dollar amount. These dollar amounts change from year to year because of cost of living and things like that. So the term that the Social Security Administration will use is substantial gainful activity. So this means that you're basically working over the restriction amount. In 2022, in order to have one of your 9 months count, you have to earn at least $970 in a month. So for the people that are maybe right on the brink of, a struggle or something like that with the way that the economy's been, and they're thinking about part-time work, if you find a job where, let's say, you're making $800 a month, right? So that's roughly $200 a week, just to kind of, so you don't feel that pressure, either at the grocery store or at the gas station, whatever it might be, you can get that job and be totally fine. You actually don't even need to report anything because it's not significant enough, to be frank, for Social Security to care, okay? But once you earn $900, or specifically in 2022, once you earn $970 or more in gross wages, if you're a W-2 employee, or your net profit if you're self-employed or maybe a 1099 worker, then that counts as one of your 9 months. So if it's $970 or $10,000 in 1 month, it's still only going to count as 1 month used. Okay? Once you do that 9 times within this 60-month period, once you have utilized all 9 of those months and at least earn $970, you'll automatically roll into the second part of the work program called the extended period of eligibility. Now, for the second part of the program, there is a restriction, or I should say, your benefits can be suspended. Okay, there's a different dollar amount. So the $970 is just the trial work period month, but going back to what I was talking about earlier, the substantial gainful activity, right? And you can see right here, it's substantial. In 2022, that dollar amount is $1,350. So we'll keep it very simple as an example. Let's say in 2021, you were found to be disabled, your benefits started, and then in January of 2022, maybe you started off working some sort of small part-time job, and you were in a position where you were earning $970 or more. All right, starting in January, fast forward through September, you continued that same trend, and every month you earn $970 or more. All right, that means that once you've utilized those first 9 months, the extended period of eligibility starts automatically, whether you've had an official work review or done or not. Again, it's your responsibility. It's your benefits. You should be keeping track of it and know all this information, and that's what Social Security is going to tell you if you're late in reporting. So you should realistically, if let's say you are earning $1,500 a month. Okay, so January through September, you earn $1,500 a month. You utilized all 9 months. We're rolling into October. As of October, your check should be suspended if you're earning $1,500 a month if you're not legally blind. All right, and that's because the limit in 2022 is $1,350. Right, so if you earn $1,350 and let's say 1 penny. Right, you're still over, your check should still be suspended, and you would owe that money back in any month that you earn more than that and were paid. Okay, the extended period of eligibility, where the first part is a 60-month period, the extended period of eligibility is a 36-month period, consecutive. Right, so where the first part was non-consecutive, this is consecutive. So let's say you quit, you get fired, you get laid off. A situation like the pandemic where you're not working, if you're in this period, that clock is ticking no matter what. Essentially, in that 36-month period, so let's, again, for our example, that would be October of 2022 to October of 2025 is your 36-month period. At any point in those 36 months, if you earn more than whatever the substantial gainful amount is for whatever year that would be applicable, your check should be suspended, and if you got paid, you will owe that money back. Okay? If you're in a position where, let's say, October, you're earning that $1,500, and you report to them, hey, I have a consistent job, I'm earning $1,500 a month, please keep my check suspended. And that's part of your review too, is they're going to ask, well, are you still working, or did you stop working? So if you're still working, they're going to leave your check suspended while you're in that 36-month period. And then they'll have basically like an alert on their calendar where they'll do another review after that, 3 years if you've been suspended that whole time. And then if let's say you're still in that same position, you're still earning that $1,500, you go from being in a suspended status to a terminated status. That's essentially how somebody gets off of Social Security disability. Those are the kind of the steps that they have to take. And I have to say, this is one of probably the best programs or avenues that they have for somebody who, maybe something catastrophic happened. They had to take some time off for an injury and heal. And this is how they kind of get back into the workforce. I have to say this is one of the best explained things that the agency does do, at least at face value. There are a lot of other details, especially once you get into this second part of the work program, the extended period of eligibility. There's a lot of little details in there that they may or may not discuss with you, or you may or may not know up front, which can also be used when you initially file for disability. There's a lot of things to consider, especially if, let's say, you had a pre-existing condition that your employer knew about, and maybe they gave you the same job as a able-bodied person and or a person with no conditions, and are allowing you to either maybe take more time off, take more breaks, do lighter work or something like that. A lot of those little details do make a difference in, one, whether when you're found to be disabled, and two, if you're utilizing these programs. A quick example of that is let's say that you have a reoccurring expense every month, like if you're legally blind and you can't drive to work, so you have to take a cab to and from work every day, and let's say that costs you $500 a week, but you're making good money and it's still enough to suspend your check, or maybe you're right there on the brink. Well, maybe that $500, which should be considered, puts you under the limit. So now you're still getting paid your disability check. You're still going to work and you're making wages that way, and you're not in a situation where your check is suspended or possibly your benefits are terminated later down the road. So there's a lot of little details in there that can really make the difference with some people. As an example, I had a client. This is why I still worked for the agency. There was a gentleman who filed for retirement benefits and mentioned that he had a disabled son. The son ended up being getting on disability, but he also had he worked full time at Home Depot. I was kind of reluctant to say, but he was working at Home Depot, and he was working full time, and he was making, I think it was like $25,000 a year. But he was getting a subsidy from Home Depot because there was some sort of program that was basically, the way I remember it, was basically paying half his wages, right? So I think he was making like $14 or $15 an hour, but he got this stipend from some organization where they covered half of his salary. It all came from Home Depot, so from what I gather is they probably donated or did whatever with Home Depot, and then Home Depot turned around and just paid him a full wage because that's what came up on his W-2. That's what he paid taxes on and things like that. Well, Social Security, the payment center, who issues the payment to the person, actually ended up doing a work review on him. They sent him the paperwork. He filled it out. He alleged that he had a subsidy from the employer, and they never. I think they sent one notice, and it never got returned. It probably went to headquarters or wherever the company's headquartered, which I think is Atlanta, and probably got lost in the mail more than likely. But they never followed up on that after his allegation of a subsidy. They ended up processing his work review as if he was making $25,000 with no help from anywhere else, terminated his benefits going all the way back to when he was found to be disabled. He ended up with like a $50,000 overpayment, meaning that Social Security expected him to pay back $50,000, and they terminated his Medicare. Obviously, that is an extreme hardship for somebody that's disabled, and this particular gentleman has been disabled since birth. I forget what his conditions were, but so once I found that out during the appeal process, so they were basically disagreeing with the decision and said, okay, there's got to be more to this. Like, this is outrageous. I ended up digging a little further. I ended up contacting the employer, and after a few months of jumping through hoops, we were able to get this sorted out for him, able to get his benefits reinstated, got the overpayment removed, and turned his Medicare back on, and helped guide him through what undoubtedly was a super stressful time for him and his family. Especially with the idea of losing Medicare. For a lot of people, medical costs outweigh what they get from Social Security, and they want they would rather keep the Medicare. They're like, I've heard people say, just take my check, I don't care, just let me keep the Medicare. Going back to this pamphlet here, I can't stress enough, if you're somebody that's on disability and you're thinking about going back to work, this is a very, it's not a long read, it's not a hard read. A lot of great information in this pamphlet. It's like 15 pages, I think. Oh, it's 24. But really, like, these first 10 pages are extremely helpful information. There was something else that I saw in here as well. Let me see if I can find it again, and that is the Ticket to Work program. I think it was at the top of the Ticket to Work program. Basically, there's a lot of things that the Ticket to Work will offer you. Their information is in here as well. There's the telephone number. One of the major things that is super important about the Ticket to Work program Social Security has two different types of reviews when you're on disability. You have medical reviews and you have work reviews. If you are a medical review, so when you're found to be disabled, they look at the severity of your condition and how long it's expected to, recover based off your age and all that. And then they set up something. Called a medical diary. So you'll have a certain amount of years that will go before you get a medical review, which is when they basically they take another look at your conditions, right? So this is important as to why you need to make sure that when you're initially found to be disabled, I believe you get some sort of basically like care plan where they say, okay, well, you need to continue to follow up with your doctor and kind of do these things. You might need to do like PT or physical therapy or occupational therapy, this, that, and the other. You really need to make sure that you're maintaining the plan to get you rehabbed and eventually back into the workforce, because eventually you will have a medical review, more than likely. So I would say if you're on disability and you're under the age of 60, because retirement is at 62, if you're under the age of 60 and you have a condition that has like a 5-year medical diary, you are going to get reviewed at some point. The only time that you wouldn't would be going back to, at the beginning of the video, we were talking about budget. So the disability program has a budget, and part of that budget is how many people they can do medical reviews for. So the only reason why you wouldn't get medically reviewed is if they didn't have the money to do that. And that does happen. Sometimes they'll just bump your review to maybe another year or another couple years, but I would not depend on that. If they say, yeah, you have a 5-year medical diary, be prepared in 5 years to be totally rehabilitated if you healed properly, and make sure that you followed whatever prognosis or treatment plan that they decided to go with or that your doctor recommended, because when you have that medical review done, they're going to be looking for that. They're going to be looking, okay, we told him that every 6 months he needs to go do this. He needs, he or she needs, 2 sessions of PT or OT, whatever it might be. Did they do it? Yes or no? If they see that you didn't do anything, they're going to say, okay, well, this person must not be disabled because they're not doing all of the rehab that, is prescribed by their doctor, or somebody with these conditions that would normally, go through this to get better and kind of get back into the workforce. What a ticket to work does, sorry for the long rant, what a ticket to work does is it prevents them from, if you're on disability and you're going back to work, sometimes people will have a fear like, oh, what if work doesn't work out and they see that I try to work and now they're going to assume that I'm not disabled and they're going to stop my benefits. That's a very real fear that a lot of people have. So don't feel odd if that goes through your head. That's a totally normal thought to have. What the ticket to work does is it prevents that medical review from happening while you're utilizing these work programs and trying to get back into the workforce. So it's almost like you're tapping them on the shoulder and saying, hey, because the government wants you to, the government makes money from you when you're working and you're paying taxes. They don't want you to be on disability, right? So you're a better resource to them when you're in the workforce. And that's probably why all this information is laid out as well as it is, because that's where they want to guide you, right? So if you look at Ticket to Work, free voc rehabilitation, right? So maybe you got hurt, you can't do the same job that you were doing before, so they're going to train you to do something else. And then the training, that's kind of the same thing. Job referrals, so they have a network of people that will say, okay, well, we got this guy trained in this new, program over here. I would imagine that Ticket to Work links with a bunch of counties in your state or in any state really to that help people, find jobs and get back into the workforce that way, and then other employment support. So I strongly recommend, if you are on disability, give them a call. If you're thinking about going back to work, even if you're thinking about it, give them a call and say, hey, I'm thinking about going back to work. Please open up a Ticket to Work for me. And that will prevent medical reviews. Here's the other publication, so you could probably just take this. And that didn't work. was going to say copy paste. Where'd it go? It was somewhere right there with the ticket to work. And utilize that as much as possible. Again, this is just a quick overview of this pamphlet. This is super helpful information. If you're thinking about going back to work, the two programs that you need to be focused on if you're receiving Social Security disability, not SSI, Social Security disability, or SSDI, is what it's also known as. You want to make sure that you report. If you do go to work, you need to tell the Social Security office within the first 30 days, hey, I went back to work, schedule my work review. They'll probably push it out, whatever, not, more than likely that 9th month or probably that 10th month, I think is what it has to be now, because they want to make sure that you utilized all 9. And then the extended period of eligibility. If your check gets suspended because you're going over the limit, and then let's say that maybe you reduce your hours or you stop working, you simply call Social Security back. You say, hey, I was working, I was going over the limit, my check was suspended, I have now either reduced my work or stopped working. Please do another work review so you can turn my check back on immediately. They'll send you a packet to complete. You fill that out, return it, they'll make a decision. Realistically, that whole turnaround time from when you call to report it and say turn it back on if it's suspended to when they finally make the decision, you could be looking at a month. So if you can plan accordingly, I wouldn't be surprised if you're stopping your work, maybe it's maybe your injury got or your condition got aggravated or something like that. So do the best that you can, and then they'll do that work review to turn it back on, and it can go off and on and off and on as many times as you can. But during that second part of the program, depending on what your work situation might be. So I certainly hope that this video was able to help you. If you need more information, especially on those little detailed things like any expenses that you might be facing, or if you need somebody to help you with your work review, again, that is a service that social benefit advisors can provide. So you could just go to our website, www.socialbenefitadvisors.com, or you can give us a call at 803-526-7951, and we can help you out. I have no doubt. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like. If you have a question or you want me to comment on something moving forward, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel and turn on your bell notifications so you're always updated when I release new content. Thank you so much, and again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day.